But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity. But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Allow me to acknowledge our congregationeers, composed of composition of recipients of the precisely and empirically privileged, and welcome to HBR News number 160, Thundercats Roar, Current Year Watchmen, Reuben Foster, and Stephanie Adams' Suicide. I am your person of the house, Brian Martinez, and I am here with my esteemed confreres and compatriots to look at the finest palpations, mirths, and what the fornications under consent of the kings to discourse about with great badgerification. Before we begin, I'm going to ask that you please apply pressure to that like button, because if you do not, you are conclusively exercising your privilege and patriarchal oppression upon us, and we will be forced to seek due recourse for such transgressions. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Otherwise, I will simply be forced to remind you that you are all mean, mad, white men that should be taxed. About 15%. That includes the non-whites and women, in case you were wondering. Today's pollcat panel consists of Dr. I am always and forever going to play the role of Fry Randombercam, me, the Supreme Doge in charge, and allow me please to welcome our special guest, Mike J., one of our contributors and patrons. I hope Mike J. is a suitable moniker to use for the show.
Yeah, that works. How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you? All right. So welcome to the show, and let me get into what we're going to be discussing on today's show. We have a lot of stories to get through today, so these will be brief. But please feel free to continue the conversation both in the live chat and in the comment section. On this week's HBR News Show, we have a veritable deluge of cognizant itemization, such as feminists trying to effect change with Spotify, Thundercats and Watchmen's new creative direction, circumcision in Iceland, the sexism of poverty, and much, much more. Let us not procrastinate any further and wade into the salty tides of their rhetoric. And finally, our bonus story for the patron-only after show. Want to hashtag resist the current regime of fascists and patriarchs with literary genius? Kyle Gold's new novel may lie at the most unlikely intersection in literary history. A gay immigrant Muslim romance involving furries. Yes, that's real. We're going to talk about it in the after show. Anyway, if you would like to participate in our after shows, either as an audience member or as a participant, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. If you don't want to wake up one morning and find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, please go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. And that was about as much of whatever the fuck I wrote as I'm able to muster reading. So we'll just go ahead and get into the stories. And thank you for your understanding in these difficult times. So, first up, let me display the PowerPoint. Spotify respects women. Music streaming service Spotify has recently urged R. Kelly and, I don't know who this is, a triple extension or extencation? I don't know. It's a musician with a catchy sort of name. So they have purged R. Kelly and Triple Extencation from their official playlist due to the rapper's shaky past with women. Spotify issued a statement on the issue saying, quote, "When an artist or creator does something that is especially harmful or hateful, it may affect the ways we work with or support that artist or creator." Shauna Thomas, executive director of the anti-sexism women's group Ultraviolet, congratulated the company, stating, quote, "Your action demonstrates that Spotify is following the lead of black women who demanded that these two men who have sexually and physically abused women for years not be promoted and celebrated." However, Thomas believes that Spotify could go further, asking the company to remove other known or suspected abusers, such as the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nelly, Eminem, Don Henley, Steven Tyler, and Tekashi 69. More recently, Spotify has completely removed at least 2 albums from the death metal group Cannibal Corpse. When asked for a reason on Twitter, a spokesperson remarked it was removed due to their partnership with the German-based Federal Review Board for Media Harmful to Minors, or BPJM. And
What's
here's
BPJM?
the tweet. I don't know what that is. Mike, do you know what that is? Jay, that is.
Yeah, I did some digging on it last night, and I've had it explained to me that they're basically German SPLC.
Ah.
They're one of these sort of organizations that goes around saying, oh, this is bad, this is harmful, you shouldn't do this or talk about this or have this. And companies go, yeah, that makes sense, let's remove it.
I noticed there's no mention of John Lennon in their little list of people who have abused women. Apparently John Lennon was something of a wife beater.
Yes, I remember him admitting it himself, actually. And then
But they can't take all the Lennon-McCartney shit away because there's millions of dollars in there, isn't there? You get rid of fucking Chris Brown because nobody even knows he's an artist. Everyone thinks he's a dancer who just hits women. but there's millions of dollars in Lennon, so they're not touching him. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I don't know that going after, and it's interesting because they even say that, or Thomas believes that they should remove people who are suspected abusers, not even actually found guilty, convicted ones. Hence, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Eminem, Steven Tyler. I don't know much on that, or Don Henley. Don Henley, who is that? That name is really familiar.
He's the Eagles.
Ah,
the
yes.
the Eagles.
That's right. Okay.
The guy who sings. It always makes me laugh. They had like 7 guitarists on stage, and it was the drummer who sang.
Yeah, isn't that the same? The CCR is the same way, isn't it? The drummer is the guy who sings, I believe. But anyway, so they're R.I.P. Spotify. If you guys start doing that, then you're done. You're done. There's no end to that tunnel if you go down that particular road. There's no end. At least not historically, as I know it. Do you guys have any other thoughts on that?
No, you kind of covered the one thing I wanted to with the suspected abusers part.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was definitely something worth pointing out. So, we'll go on to the next story. We got a lot of them anyway. Stolen Thunder. I like these titles. After a failed reboot attempt in 2011, I thought it was actually a really good show, though, but whatever. Thundercats is being tried once again, rebranding itself as Thundercats Roar. In a bold move, the new series is foregoing its former anime-inspired animation style and going with something much closer to modern cartoons such as Steven Universe, The Amazing World of Gumball, and Gravity Falls. Taking another page from these shows, Thundercats Roar is also coming back as a slice-of-life comedy, which is a vast departure from the series' original roots as a rather serious action-oriented cartoon. Fan reaction has been mixed, but seems to be mostly negative at the moment. And here goes some tweets that I thought I would share with you guys. Here's one where it says, "This is not a work of parody. This is a Thundercats series that is airing on Cartoon Network in 2019. I thought it was a parody, but..." Another tweet that reads, "They got Thundercats looking like Steven Universe was locked into a Grundle fly pod with Clarence and I am sad." Jerry L. Barrow. And lastly, Flips Table, "What the fuck is this shit? Oh, hell nah. Y'all ain't gonna do my Thundercats like this. Y'all ain't gonna ruin my childhood like this. Damn it, not everything needs to be a comedy." Thundercats Roar will be making its debut on Cartoon Network sometime in 2019. Okay, so anybody have any any thoughts on this? I just thought it was because everyone's talking about it. So that's why I chose it. I don't really have a really strong feeling on it either way, to be honest, but
It's difficult to say because Thundercats was one of those 80s cartoons. It's not creator driven. It's merchandise driven.
absolutely.
That was the reason for the whole styling. Ironically, it's easier to make vaguely human-looking toys than it is to make fucking rubbery Steven Universe toys, because the moving parts just kind of click between each other. And now, presumably, ironically, it's more creator-driven at this point, but it doesn't quite work out if it's a remake. I mean, it never really had a creator. Its creators were presumably some kind of commission.
People who wanted to, people who wanted to sell toys. That was the whole reason to do like Star Wars. I'm not Star Wars. I'm sorry. Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Yeah, same with He-Man and Transformers and My Little Pony. I mean, it's called My Little Pony for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were basically 20-minute commercials for the action figures and play sets and toys. Although there is one thing I was thinking about. 'Cause I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I'm trying to look at this from a creative perspective. What would be the reason to reboot a franchise that was the only people who still have nostalgia for it are people like from my generation, you know, or maybe a bit younger. Like I'm a Generation X kid, and I remember Thundercats from when I was a tween, and I could see how, you know, it would create nostalgia in me to want to watch it, but it doesn't look anything like what I'm accustomed to, so it wouldn't work on me. So would the idea be to try to reintroduce this thing to a new audience, and then what? I don't get what is the goal here, except that maybe what I would assume is what I've been saying about a lot of these reboots is, you know, they're out of ideas and they're just going back and rehashing old ones.
I think they're trying to bank off of the hipster cred idea of the Thundercats. It's one of those things where, you know, you ask anyone in at a you know, you're one of your standard nerd conventions, oh, you like Thundercats? Oh, hell yeah, man, I love Thundercats. Mm-hmm. And that's just like that's what they started at. Like, everyone likes Thundercats. We can do anything with this. We can make it popular again, and we're gonna make it look like everything else out there right now.
Yeah, I will say that the person in the interview with the creator or whoever's in charge of this, they said that they had fond memories of watching this show with their older brothers who were more committed. So he was a lot younger when he watched it. And he thought he would make something that is very self-aware in how kind of absurd and silly the idea of Thundercats is. Because I mean, look, I'm not so cynical that I can't appreciate it on its own merits. But if you just think about how kind of silly the whole concept is, it is. However, that doesn't mean that you can't still enjoy it. It's sort of like I don't even know what you call it. It's basically like the original furry superheroes or something. But I don't want to go so far as to presume what the intentions are of these creators. Like, there's a lot of people saying this is an SJW thing, and it's like, I'm going to wait and see what they actually do, because as far as I understand it, there isn't a lot of information. I think that it may just be a weak kind of cash grab, if you can call it that, a ratings grab or whatever. I'm not really crazy about what it looks like, but you know what? It's not really for me, despite the fact that I was one of the people who grew up watching it. So, and also, guys, I hate to burst your bubble, but if you have fond memories of the Thundercats, I think you should like take another look, because while the intro is well known for having incredible animation, once the show begins, it's not so great. I'm just letting you know. It doesn't.
You ever sit down and watch an episode like with the goggles on? By the end of the episode, you'll realize how blurred the goggles made your vision. It's unwatchable once you get older.
Yeah. I always thought that was half the fun.
Yeah, same with He-Man. The original He-Man is so laughable if you watch it now. They use the same like animations over and over again. They just reuse the animations with different backgrounds.
Yeah,
hardly had to do anything original.
Yeah, and also the 2011 version was actually, I thought it was pretty good. I liked what they were doing with it. I don't know why it didn't take off. It might have just been
nobody watched it. It got horrible, abysmal ratings, and it didn't sell toys. And that's what they primarily wanted to do with it, was sell toys. Well, maybe that's why they rebranded it as a
kids show,
something else. They did a Lego tie-in and a completely different series with humanoid animal like guys.
Yeah. Maybe that's
Legends of Chima, as the chat says. That was the one.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're going for. But it's a shame. We got a super chat from Ann Capistan. He says, I like the Thundercats 2011 reboot, and I was really disappointed when it was canceled. The reboot makes me, that reboot, the one we're currently looking at, makes me puke, though. Yeah, I don't know. But again, I wouldn't go so far as to say this is SJW's ruining everything. This is probably just another attempt at them to find success where the 2011 one failed. Maybe, though, the answer is that they should just do something new. Maybe this is probably best left in the rear view of our childhood. And I don't know that Thundercats would have been the way to go as far. What about Tiger Sharks? Or Silverhawks. I'm kidding. Or Smurfs or Snorkels or whatever those guys were called. Remember the
Bring
Snorks?
back Street Sharks.
Yeah, bring back Samurai Pizza Cats. I don't know, like something else. But we'll see. I'm sure all of those things will get the Steven Universe treatment. Actually, there's been a lot of that going around. There's funny memes where people are making these reboots of stuff and drawing it in this really cheap style. And I think that might be another reason why they're going with this. It's probably less expensive to animate this way. I don't know.
It's dirt cheap. It's glorified Flash.
Yeah, exactly. So there's another thing right there. All right. So we will move on to the next story. Who will watch HBO's Watchmen? Oh my God. Damon Lindelof, creator of such shows as Lost and The Leftovers, is set to create its own version of the acclaimed graphic novel Watchmen as a television show for HBO. In a five-page letter released Tuesday, Lindelof detailed his plans for the series. Lindelof explains that his Watchmen will be a continuation and plans to respect the original comic run's continuity, stating that those original 12 issues are our Old Testament, and, quote, to be clear, Watchmen is canon. Lindelof plans on setting this series 30 years after the original, around now, and featuring new characters. Some of the characters will be unknown, new faces, new masks to cover them. Lindelof also doesn't seem to shy away from setting his universe in a modern-day setting, stating that, quote, it must be contemporary. As the original run of Watchmen commented on the politics of the 80s with Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and Mikhail Gorbachev, so will this Watchmen. He states, quote, ours needs to resonate with the frequency of Trump and May and Putin. Now, when we say May, we mean Theresa May, I assume. There's been no word yet. Okay, yeah. There's been no word yet on the casting choices or release date for HBO's Watchmen TV series. So they are rebooting The Watchmen, and they're going to make it about Trump.
To his credit, he did not want to use the word reboot.
Yeah, right. It's a continuation.
So he does, yeah.
Well, when you piggyback off of another idea that was done to the point where it sort of like had an effect on our comic book history. I mean, Watchmen is a mark on comic book history. Make no mistake about that. So when you piggyback off of such a new idea, I was never really an enormous fan of The Watchmen. I read the books, but I really didn't see what the big deal was. And it wasn't new because there was another book that had done it already called Squadron Supreme a few years before. But I digress. Isn't it just kind of droll and I don't know, there's something cheap about it? Like someone else did the work to make something at least that stood out in people's minds, and then somebody else is like, I want to make a comic book series into a television show, but I want to talk about current day politics. How do I do it? Well, you could come up with your own idea and just tell that story. Yes, I could, but I need people to pay attention, so why don't I attach the Watchmen name to it? Because it's almost like you don't have to do that, right? I mean, but apparently that's what they want to do, and I guess that's the bit that kind of, it doesn't anger me, but it does kind of rub me the wrong way. Like I'm a little bit miffed by it because I guess it just seems really cheap. And I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat?
It's the safe option. It's like doing a cover version. It's like a band doing a cover version, maybe as their debut single. Because things sell, people already know what they are. That's why there's so many reboots going around. Because when people recognize, yeah, same with Star Trek and Star Wars, and basically everything from the 80s is being rebooted these days. And it's because you're more likely to draw a core audience if they already recognize the brand. That kind of thing is much more likely to make money than a brand new thing no one's heard of before. You know, I can talk. I've done nothing but cover songs for the past few years, and it's not for the money making reason. It's partially for the nostalgia reason. It's because people already know the melody. So so it's got a certain place in their heart, despite being a guilty conscience. But I write different lyrics to it, so it's transformative, as YouTube would call it, and sort of. So I could see where they're coming from, not just from a economic perspective, but from a, I don't know, just
to be fair to this guy,
bums on seats perspective.
I could see it. Anna Cherry said she's on Twitch, and I feel like I want to read her comment. She says if it fails, then it's not their fault. So it gives them a bit of, you know, I guess some. Allows them to evade some accountability if it turns out to be a failure, because they can just say, well, it looks like Watchmen can't sell as a television show at all, you know. But yeah, I don't know, that it's possible. Again, you know, just something that I thought was worth pointing out. There's definitely cultural things happening with regards to the media, but I mean, not that we didn't think that would be the case. I'm not really upset at it, but I think it's probably going to be crap.
I do want to just shove in, though, in his 5-page letter, I actually read through the whole thing because that was the only way to get reliable quotes for this write-up. But it is actually worth a read because he does address a lot of these points in there of the whole, oh, you can't redo Watchmen. This is, you know, something that's not going to be able to be done. And he does sort of address them in a very, very overly wordy wordsmith sort of way. But he does sort of go over those things.
All right. Well, then, yes, it's definitely worth looking at. Again, just look at it yourself. I know that there's probably a lot of people here that don't really care either way, and I can understand that. But as a person who, you know, because I'm an artist and I'm interested in the business, these are the things that I'm looking at, like the trends and the things that people are sort of doing. So French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, SWAT cats, biker mice from Mars, street sharks. Okay.
Oh, yeah, street sharks.
Joey Jojo gives us $2 and says, Alan Moore screams in the distance. You know, Alan Moore is a really interesting guy. I watched this thing about him where apparently he believes in magic. And that was actually, he's just a really interesting guy. Let's put it that way.
I can't imagine him screaming from any distance. He's probably groaning. Oh no! Oh, that's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Okay, so Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian and says they should add the band The Watchmen to this. So there's a band. I didn't know that. And Hoki Bukisa gives us $1.99 and says absolute hardtack. All right. So with that said, I guess we will see what happens with HBO's show. Hopefully it is original, visionary, unique, entertaining, and fun. These are my hopes. Like anything else. Because basically, like, the better art people make, then that they put out there that enjoys some success, then it's just better for everyone. Because then more people make good stuff to compete with that stuff and to try to, like, maintain the quality level. And I think the worse things get, like, the more... I don't know, Handmaid's Tales and this new Vox show that's going to be on Netflix that I watched an episode of today. Like, the more crap there is, then I think it just sort of brings the mean down, and I'd like to see that increase. And sure, all this stuff might just get killed by platforms like YouTube, but do we really want YouTube to be the only business in town because of how they've been treating people lately? Do we really want that? So, all right, anyway, moving on to the next article. Gender inequality. Stars tell world leaders poverty is sexist. Scores of celebrities are calling on world leaders to make urgent action against global gender inequality. Stars including Oprah Winfrey, Chadwick Boseman, Meryl Streep, Lena Dunham, and Natalie Portman signed an open letter led by an international charity called ONE. The letter demands a commitment from world leaders to create change for women. It reads, this is gold. Dear world leaders, we're putting you on notice. For 130 million girls without an education, for 1 billion women without access to a bank account, for 39,000 girls who became child brides today, for women everywhere paid less than a man for the same work. There is nowhere on earth where women have the same opportunities as men, but the gender gap is wider for women living in poverty. Poverty is sexist, and we won't stand by while the poorest women are overlooked. You have the power to deliver historic changes for women this year. From the G7 to the G20, from the African Union to your annual budgets. We will push you for commitments and hold you to account for them. And if you deliver, we will be the first to champion your progress. We won't stop until there is justice for women and girls everywhere, because none of us are equal until all of us are equal. The letter has also been endorsed by former U.S. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg, and Huffington Post founder Ariana Huffington. Well, that's it. Go ahead, Mike.
If you deliver, we will be the first to champion your progress. No, you won't. You'll pretend you did it. The next thing you say is we won't stop until there is just... Yeah, you won't champion anyone's progress. You simply won't stop complaining that there isn't enough progress. There is nowhere on earth where women have the same opportunities as men. Oh, shit! Everywhere in the West, for one thing. And given the Norwegian gender paradox, the more opportunities you give to women and men, the more they divide themselves into typically gendered roles. And yeah, you're not going to look at the Norwegian paradox as what it is. You're just going, oh, that doesn't make sense at all. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it to the third world. We're going to hold the third world to our standards of gender equality, which are completely fucking skew with. And we're not going to stop until we've taken over the entire world.
Okay. Why stop at the world?
Colonialism, much?
Yeah, really.
I thought we were past imperialism and colonialism. No?
Oh, my God. So, Hollywood wrote a letter, guys, and about a bunch of famous people signed it. So, yep, it's done. It's done. Women are equal now. We've done it. Poverty is cured. Thanks, Hollywood. You guys did it. All we were doing was waiting for you guys to write a letter. I know. Why didn't you guys come up with this? This is a brilliant idea. Write a letter to the despots and the dictators of all the most oppressive regimes in the world. I'm sure they'll read it and say, oh shit, Oprah Winfrey signed this, cry tears, feel immense guilt, and just immediately just go to their little balcony where they overlook all their servants, and they raise their arms and say, I was wrong! I was wrong! Release those women from their chains. Give that girl a book of the ABCs and give that woman all of the monies. It's done. They've done it, guys. They did it. They saved the world. We're all equal now. Everybody can go home. HBR is done. This is the last episode. We've done it. We've achieved equality. Thank you, Hollywood. Can you taste the sarcasm? I just put a little bit in there. I don't know if you guys believe that, but... No other thoughts on this?
We won't stop until there is justice for women and girls everywhere. I mean, there's 3.5 billion of them, and you're not gonna stop until there's not a single woman who accidentally experiences injustice. When there's 3.5 billion of them living their lives out, there's always going to be some injustice happening to some cunt somewhere. And who knows? Maybe it happens to men more.
That's a crazy idea. We need to focus on women right now. We can do men later. That's like you ever done like when I was in grade school and I used to get my math homework, and I was really bad at long division. I hated long division, right? So if I got my math homework and I get a series of problems, and I would try to do the long division problems last, even if there were other, even if they were sort of earlier in my homework. So this is like that. Like men's problems, those are really difficult problems. So they're just going to do the women's problems because they're easier to do. And then we'll come back to the long division of men's problems. Too many variables. I don't like that. Anyway, Let me look at the super chats. And Mike J, did you want to say something to this that maybe I don't know that?
No, I think we kind of covered it.
Okay.
That's pretty much all to say on this. We're putting more thought into it than these celebrities did when they signed it.
But Sheryl Sandberg, though, it's, you know what that is it's just a really big virtue signal. That's the thing. It's so empty. That's why I didn't want to take it seriously. It's just another big empty gesture that they wanted everyone to see them doing, and they probably just made sure everybody saw it. That's why it's on the BBC, because they thought this was fucking news. It's nothing. It's empty and it's nothing. They have millions and millions of dollars, these people. Oprah is fucking super fuck you rich, okay? She's not going to do anything about what's going on except talk about it and make sure that she is seen talking about it. That's all. These people are just shells. They're not human beings. They're animals. No, I'm kidding. Kind of. I mean, human beings are animals, but whatever. All right, so Barnabas Seaworth gives us $2 and says, ever watch the...
And shells. Technically, shells are animals as well. I think the bits of animals.
Yeah, that's true. Barnabas Seaworth gives us $2 and says, ever watch the Inhumanoids? Yeah, that was actually my shit. I had the toys because they were gigantic. Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian and says, more men live in poverty than women. Yeah, that's... Details. Don't bother us with details. French Honey Badger, $5. After failing to convince to the people directly repeatedly, stars call onto the rulers to force people to do their holy bidding. Yeah, right. It's a demand. They were making demands. And I'm sure that the Prince of Saudi Arabia and Kim Jong-un saw it and said, holy shit, I've been doing this all wrong. I should have just done what Oprah told me. Or Lena Dunham. Or Chadwick Boseman. He's basically the king of Wakanda. So why don't I just follow his lead? These people live in a fucking fantasy world. Joey Jojo gives us $2 and says, Lena Dunham just needs to worry about Sam Hyde. I think we all should worry about Sam Hyde.
Can't keep getting away with it.
He can't be allowed to keep getting away with it. French Honey Badger
Sam Hyde is in your area right now. He's in your closet. He's about to burst out and rape you to death with a gun.
French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, entitled brats whose job is to lie to people, tell people to be compassionate. Protect your wallets. That's right. Robo Brad gives us $4.99 in pounds and says, keep doing what you're doing, guys. Thank you. Hokey Bukisa gives us $1.99 and says, hashtag no more free shit. And Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian and says, your sarcasm is a never-ending buffet. Well, I hope you like salt on your buffet, because there was definitely salt on that sarcasm serving. So, thank you, Hollywood. You have solved the world's problems.
It looks like we got a bit of a breaking news here, Brian. I don't know if we want to announce this or not, but it looks like announced via Twitter about 40 minutes ago. John Total Biscuit Bain has passed.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh shit, man. Okay, Total Biscuit he was fighting cancer. Damn. Okay, well, I don't know what to say. I guess, guys, if there's, if you want to, my condolences to Total Biscuit's family and people that are close to him. That's really messed up. Fuck cancer. I should know. That is, yeah, that's crazy, man. Is that trending or anything? Are people talking about it? I hope so.
I just Googled Total Biscuit, and it was his Twitter. It was his first response, I guess, from his wife.
Yeah, Total Biscuit. That's a shame. John Bain. Yep, he passed away today. Oh well. Oh boy. The final shadow, I guess I'll read this thing from Jenna Bain. Rest in peace, my dearest love, John Bain. The final shadow that will close my eyes will in its darkness take me from the white day and instantly untie the soul from lies and flattery of death, and find its way, and yet my soul won't leave its memory of love there on the shore where it has burned. My flame can swim cold water and has learned to lose respect for law's severity. My soul, whom God made his prison of. My veins, which a liquid humor fed to fire. My marrows, which have gloriously flamed, will leave their body, never their desire. They will be ash, but ash in feeling framed. They will be dust, but will be dust in love. Well, I don't know what to say, except it's we lost somebody that was he was quite the man. And you know, you're never ready. So I guess I should try to move forward here.
Yeah, sorry for dropping that on you.
No, it's okay. It just happened. I guess we should probably like make mention of that. Okay, Field of Bears gives us $2 and says, "Dancing monkeys tell us how to morality." Yeah. Yeah. It actually makes this Hollywood story even more irritating. But I mean, in light of everything, you know. What the fuck is cancer? Yeah, this is it's really messed up. All right. Let's move on to the next story. This is just a quick follow-up. We talked about this a couple times before, that there was proposals to try to ban circumcision in Iceland. Turns out it's not going to happen. Iceland dumps proposed ban on male circumcision. Iceland's ban on circumcision has been shelved after fears of religious discrimination. The ban was originally proposed by a Progressive Party member, Silja Dag Gunnarsdóttir. I think I said that right, more or less. Quote,
yeah, that was pretty close.
Silja Dag Gunnarsdóttir. She described her bill as an attempt to, quote, protect the interests of the child. Circumcision of females had already been banned, she reasoned. Why not of males? Seems to make sense to me. Every individual, it doesn't matter what sex or how old, should be able to give informed consent for a procedure that is unnecessary, irreversible, and can be harmful, she declared. His body, his choice. Wow, who is this woman? I want to be her friend. The penalty for performing or organizing a circumcision would have been a sentence of up to 6 years in prison. Though polling showed that 50% favored the bill and 37% opposed it, lobbyists successfully stoked fears of religious discrimination. A letter from the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs said, quote, "The impact of this would be felt far beyond Iceland's borders. This move would make Iceland the first and only European nation to outlaw circumcision. While Jewish and Muslim populations in Iceland may be small, your country's ban would be exploited by those who stoke xenophobia and anti-Semitism in countries with more diverse populations."
Well, speaking of Muslims, now they've got a precedent, haven't they? Hey?
Yeah.
If you're going to ban male genital mutilation because the Muslims might complain, then what's next? How can we ban female genital mutilation? I mean, Muslims are going to get upset on religious grounds. Is this a precedent that you've set for that to go ahead and happen? I fucking hope not.
I mean, yeah, if you can cry anti-Semitism and xenophobia to essentially allow circumcision to continue, then why wouldn't the inverse happen? I mean, it could go that way. If you become tolerant enough. Mike J, do you have any thoughts?
Just want to note one thing. I did look at the numbers here briefly, and I don't know if you guys have seen the numbers of how many Jews and Muslims they actually have in Iceland.
It's actually a really small percentage.
Like 12,
yeah,
like 12 people, right?
We're talking somewhere between 400 and 500 Jews and about 500 Muslims in Iceland, which is the population is about 329,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tiny percentage of the population.
They never said you couldn't have your child circumcised, just don't do it here. A lot of them already opt to go to somewhere like the Middle East, have it done, and then come back to Iceland. And they weren't going to make that illegal. They were just going to say, don't do it here.
Yep.
I hope you don't get yourself a baby Alfie situation. No, he has to stay. They have to stay in this country and get circumcised. You're not allowed to take them to a country where they can't get circumcised, or vice versa. Complications.
Well, I guess religion wins in this one. So there you go. Super chat from Joey Jojo for $2. He says they use foreskin in makeup. It's the stuff of nightmares. Yeah, Oprah uses the foreskin of children to give herself that youthful glow. Speaking of fucking Hollywood.
History will not be kind to you people. I know this all looks normal to you now, but a couple hundred years from now, we're going to state facts like that about this current generation, and people are going to go, sorry, what? People did what? I mean,
like Elizabeth Bathory.
I mean, of all the Vlad the Impalers and the Genghis Khans, I mean, they were brutal, bloody warlords, but nothing's quite as sick as this. I mean, good luck finding anything sicker than this in the history of humanity. Chopping the ends of babies' dicks off and smearing it on your face to look younger. It's like something from a sci-fi movie. This is like something aliens do to get eternal life or something.
I was thinking like something out of a nasty fairy tale about a witch that, uses the young to make herself young or something,
Yeah, even those legends are always about some kind of magic. They just suck the energy out of them. But here in reality, no, they literally chop the ends off of their dicks and smear them on their face. No magic involved.
All right, so let's move on to the next story. So here we go. Reuben Foster's ex-girlfriend testifies that she lied about domestic abuse. San Francisco 49ers linebacker Reuben Foster faces charges of domestic violence. However, his ex-girlfriend, Elisa Ennis, is trying to take back her allegations. She testified last week that she had lied about the domestic violence incident to get Foster in trouble. Ennis said, quote, "I wanted him to go down. I was pissed. Apparently, she was upset with him because he had accused her of cheating and she wanted to break up." Ennis's injuries, which included a ruptured eardrum and bruising and cuts on her face, neck, hand, and knee, she now claims are from a fight with another woman the day before in a road rage incident. Holy shit, when women fight, they go for fucking blood. And I know this because I've seen women fight other women. Even though Ennis had admitted to trying to get domestic violence charges against another boyfriend after she wanted to break it off in 2011, prosecutors are not convinced, believing she was truthful originally and played 911 calls in which she stated, "My boyfriend's beating me up." The judge for this case is expected to decide if the matter moves to a jury trial in July. The 49ers general manager John Lynch earlier said Foster could not be a part of the team if he was found guilty of domestic abuse. All right. Anybody have thoughts on that one? Allow me
It's
to...
just kind of funny how they initially believed her, and then now that she's trying to recant, it's like, no, we believed past you. We don't believe present you.
Yes, exactly. She's admitting that she lied, and the prosecutors are still like, I don't know. That might be the, what do you call it? Like they're trying to imply that she won't take it back because of some kind of Stockholm syndrome thing. I don't know. Or they just really want to nail this guy.
I mean, either she was lying then or she's lying now. Either way, she's committed perjury, definitely. But women are victims, so blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. So, but what are the penalties for filing false domestic abuse charges? There should be some. I mean, this guy's career will be ruined. Actually, it might be ruined even if he's found innocent, because people, if the court of public opinion decides that he probably beat her up, then he'll probably not be able to work anyways. So this is the degree to which this can happen. I got a super chat from Maulerk. He says, for 20 kronas, I'm pretty sure those are kronas, DKK, the women were simply displaying toxic masculinity. Yeah, that's what that is. Have you ever seen women fight? Because you saw like the injuries, right? See, when men fight, if they get into a physical altercation, in my experience, a lot of the time, if it's not like a drunken brawl or something, but it's just two men that are really angry at each other for because they have a difference of opinion or something, it's usually...
They use their fists.
Yes, they use their fists.
They just use their fists and their bodies, but whereas women go straight for the nearest object, like a broken bottle or a wok. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when men do it, they treat it like an act of trying to get the other man to submit. It's a submission thing. They're not trying to kill him, and they're usually not trying to cause extensive bodily harm. If the fight is sort of like comes out of a dispute, not like, you know, someone trying to protect their life against another person that's trying to take it from them or something like that. But when women fight, like there are no like limits on what they will do. Like they'll tear out hair. They will try to like cause permanent damage. You know, I've seen it. Like I've seen women fighting. Maybe it's just the way they do in the hood, but they go for broke. I mean, and so this woman's injuries from a road rage incident, that's crazy. I mean, that, you know, that they go for broke. When women fight, it's like no prisoners. Maulerk gives us another 20 kronas and says, Tommy Sotomayor often show women fighting is brutal shit. Yeah, they go for, I mean, it's like Mike said, they go for objects. They want to leave a mark. They want permanent damage. It's not about essentially, I guess, dominance in the way that men do. Like, you know, getting the other guy to give up or surrender is considered a victory. But when women do it, it's like they want to put the other one in the hospital. So anyway, so yeah, she was hurt and wanted to use that against the against her boyfriend. And then you know what happened after that. It's crazy, man. So I don't know. We'll see what the follow-up is, and if we can, we'll get back to you guys on another show if he was convicted. I mean, there's no reason why he would be, but then if he does, then, you know, we know how fucked up things really, really are. So I guess we'll see. Yeah, be leery about girls won't be afraid to use their shoes, their, you know, whatever, their nails, their fucking whatever drink they happen to have in their hand, like a hot cup of coffee or something, like whatever. All right, so moving on to the next story. Former Playboy centerfold, 46 years old, and her 7-year-old son jumped to their deaths from Manhattan Hotel's 25th floor penthouse amid bitter custody battle with chiropractor X. Stephanie Adams, former Playboy centerfold model, and her 7-year-old son Vincent were found dead Friday morning after jumping out of a window of a 25th floor penthouse suite at a hotel in Manhattan. Adams was in a bitter custody battle with her ex-chiropractor Charles Nicolai. Their relationship was so bad that they had reportedly conducted custody exchanges at a police precinct. A close friend told the New York Post that she was distraught that her ex wouldn't let her take her son to Europe for the summer, where her boyfriend has homes in Spain and London. Nikolai successfully petitioned to not let his ex leave the country as it would compromise his visitation rights, and Adams was ordered to turn her son's passport over. This occurred only a couple of days before her suicide and her son's death. Adams had dated several famous men before, including elite modeling founder John Casablancas, Calvin Klein supermodel Ted Stevenson, and Robert De Niro. She was engaged to Nikolai in 2009 and filed for divorce in 2017. According to her friend, Adams had hired a string of lawyers to deal with her divorce and custody battles. A friend interviewed by the New York Post said, "This is really stunning. She loved that child," he said. "This boy was her whole life. This is terrible." She said she loved her son so much that she homeschooled him to spend more time with him. "The child, I can't imagine she would do that, he said. She was so close to that child. She wouldn't even let the child go to school. People have these lives you don't even know about. I didn't see suicide. So I wanted
I was sat here expecting the story to be that she wasn't allowed to see her child, or at least on most days. Maybe she could only see her for weekends or something, and that's what got her so pissed off. But no, it's that she couldn't take him to Europe with her.
Yep.
Is what broke the camel's back. Apparently she spends all of her time with this kid, wants to homeschool it, and wants to take it to another continent. And the father doesn't mind any of the homeschooling apparently, or the presumably helicopter parenting, but he draws the line at please don't take our child to another continent. I'd like to see it too. Is it a he or a she? I keep calling it it.
The son.
Well, he. His name was Vincent.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the child is a boy. So
I don't want to misgender him. Maybe he's a transgender in the making. Is he? Oh, no, he's dead.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. And it's I found it interesting because the way that it's worded, and in the articles I saw, was the way that it's worded is woman and her son jump to their deaths. I'm sorry. I know that there's not a lot of evidence out there that, really shows much, but I seriously doubt that a 7-year-old jumped to his death.
I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for the title. I'm like, okay, maybe they just kind of worded it weirdly. But no, it says here, right in the article, it's unclear if she was holding her son or if he jumped of his own volition. And it's just, reading that, it gets the blood pumping pretty hot.
I mean, even if he did, he had to have been coerced into it. Even if she jumped first, he was like, oh shit, my mum just died. Might as well kill myself. Either way, it's either murder or negligent manslaughter,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's crazy that someone could want, I don't know, to either take, it's like this, if I can't have him, nobody can idea with somebody's life. It's this woman had past tense serious problems. I'm gonna look at the super chats if anybody has any thoughts on this insanity.
Or maybe they didn't jump, maybe they were pushed, maybe there's some skullduggery going on. Just putting my Columbo trench coat on.
It's possible. Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian, says if she can't have him, nobody will. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That is really insane. I wonder what if the father was interviewed and if he had any thoughts or anything on that. It'd be something interesting to look at. And Fretchinator2 gives us $2 and says Thundercats ho, was that Chitara? Yeah. Thundercats. But yes, it's pretty brutal. Maybe he was too heavy. Yeah, right. All right, so
actually, there's clearly a picture of her holding him in the article.
Yeah, that's her holding him in the photo. That's what I'm showing people. I mean, so when this witness, I do want to comment on this. When this witness says that the friend that was interviewed that says, she loved that child, the boy was her whole life, this is terrible, I can't imagine that she would do that, she was so close, blah, blah, blah. Actually, you're thinking that the idea that she wanted to be sure to homeschool him, so that the idea that she wanted to spend as much time with her son as possible doesn't necessarily mean that her love for him was completely selfless, especially since she was willing to take his life. I'm going to go out there and just say it. I think that she killed her son. Or, like Mike said, she just killed herself and then he, without any knowledge of what else to do, just kind of followed. But I wouldn't be surprised if taking him with her was probably the course that she decided to go with. It's just, we don't know yet. We may never know that one. But I can't see any other logical way this could go. And if she did, then that would mean that she was actually acting out of selfishness, not selflessness. She would have at least, if she was planning on killing herself, she would have at least made sure that her son was taken care of, had somebody bring him to his biological father or something. But what she did was she made sure that that son could never spend time with the father again, or anyone else for that matter. That's not selflessness. That's selfishness. She was thinking about herself and her own needs and her own desires. It's actually really, really, really childish. All right. Let me look at the super chats one more time. Oh yeah, I got one. Hoki Bukisa says, that's what it probably was, Brian. It's not unheard of. Extreme passive-aggressive reaction. Yeah. Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian, says, murdering bitch. It's pretty fucked up, man. All right. This one's not exactly a men's issue, but I thought it was interesting. Anyway, Institute for Family Studies, America's Baby Bust. All right. Total fertility is nearing its historic low. This graph represents fertility rates from 1935 to 2016. While you would expect that number of young mothers to be declining as more women are opting for motherhood later, birth rate declines are also seen in women in their 30s as well. These declines seem to be about as much more than just postponed fertility. At least through 2016, this trend appeared to be mostly driven by changes in marital status. From the article, here's a quote. When it comes to discussions about declining fertility, conservatives tend to get it right away. Not having a next generation or having a far smaller one will cause problems down the line. In my experience, progressives tend to be more hesitant. Is this a backdoor argument to keep women out of the workplace? No. In fact, there's robust empirical evidence that most women want more kids. The decline in fertility has been far greater amongst minorities than among non-Hispanic whites. This graph is the difference in births between 2008 to 2016. The baby bust has hammered Native Americans and Hispanics particularly hard, and even hit African Americans harder than whites generally, and certainly harder than non-Hispanic whites, as you can see by this chart. State-wise, all are on a birth decline in the United States, except North Dakota, which is kind of funny because that's the Mormon capital of the U.S., if I remember correctly. So there are more Mormons.
I thought that was, was Utah.
Was it Utah? I thought that was, well, it's definitely, because I've driven through North Dakota. There's definitely Mormons there, but it may not be as big a thing as Utah is. Yeah, you might be right about that. But there are Mormons, because I've driven through the state. There are Mormons there. Okay, so interestingly, even as declining fertility makes the country's population whiter, it is making the country's politics redder. On average, states won by Clinton in 2016 are missing 9% of their expected births in 2008, whereas states Trump won are missing just 7.8%. Nonetheless, there's a decline. Other factors such as education differences are smaller than differences by age or race, suggesting that socioeconomic class is not the biggest driver of changing fertility rates, whereas race, ethnicity, marital status, and geography are the best predictors of changes in fertility over the last decade. Just interesting stuff that I thought I would put out there. It looks like minority women are seeing a dive in fertility. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's really important, but I thought it was interesting. Let me see if the super chat has any thoughts on it. While you guys, if you guys want to say something, go ahead and say something. It's cool. Fretchinator2 gives us $5 and says, man kills self and son, damn men. Women kill self and son, damn men. Interesting.
Makes you think.
Yeah, really activates the almonds.
So the victim of this domestic violence was a boy. Sorry, I thought I'd just say what Cassie said to offend everyone in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Victim was a boy, but women mostly affected.
Damn Skippy. Women always mostly affected. Come on now. All right, so give us your thoughts on that story. I will move on to the next one now. This is the last one. Well, there was one other one. I'll make a quick mention of it, but oh, here's a super chat from French Honey Badger. That article, he gives us $5 and says that article is telling all leftists were wrong when they predicted a Democrat win forever because of demographic. Well, if the trend is correct, yes. It also kind of makes an argument against the alt-right argument, which I guess is one of the reasons why I thought it was interesting, because the alt-right was talking about how, you know, in 50 years, I think he said in 50 years, Hispanics will become a majority and they'll be able to affect policy with their votes. And if the decline, and he says even they said even if you got really, really hard on immigration and you didn't allow any more people in, that would still happen. But it doesn't appear to be the case if this Institute for Family Studies data is correct, which of course it's hard to know either way. Field of Bears gives us $5 and says, if I can't have total and exclusive control over another human being, may as well murder him. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so next story. An MRI brain scan can reveal if you are transgender, says study. This is something that Anna Cherry has also said before. She's talked about this. So Anna, if you make a comment, I will try to read it out. I see that you're on Twitch, so. The analysis of around 160 participants showed that biological males with gender dysphoria, the experience of discomfort or distress due to their biological sex, has a brain structure and neurological patterns similar to biological females, and vice versa. The results were presented at the European Society of Endocrinology annual meeting in Barcelona. The team used MRI, which is magnetic resonance imaging, tests to examine brain activation upon exposure to a steroid and measured gray matter and white matter microstructure using a technique called diffusion tensor imaging. The distinct neurological differences are detectable during childhood, and the scientists behind the new research say their discovery promises doctors a new, quote, tool with which to offer better advice at an earlier stage. Professor Julie Baker, who led the research at the University of Liège in Belgium, said, quote, we will be better equipped to support these young people instead of just sending them to a psychiatrist and hoping that their distress will disappear spontaneously.
Well, does this mean, now that they have a medical test that can confirm gender dysphoria, does this mean they can tell the difference between genuine transsexuals and fake trans-trenders, if you will? People who just wear that disorder on their sleeve for victim points. Does that mean we can
yes,
does that mean when people do this we can say, there's a test you can take, and if you fail that test then you're not a real transgender? Well, I'm not advocating for that. There's something a bit dodgy sounding about it, you know? But it would be nice to have a solution to the problem of how do you tell the genuine gender dysphoria sufferers from the apers, you know?
Yes. I think it's actually great for people who, because I would imagine, and I mean, I'm not really sure because I've never experienced it, but I would imagine that if someone is experiencing gender dysphoria, but they don't know what it is yet, like it hasn't been diagnosed, but they just feel uncomfortable in their body or, you know, whatever this is. And there are, I would imagine, because transgenderism is still kind of a, I guess there isn't a lot of science on it. I would imagine that the professionals in their immediate vicinity may not be able to help them, as there are either going to be people who don't know enough about gender dysphoria to be able to sort of, you know, accurately diagnose it. And on the other hand, there are people who are willing to essentially say everyone is trans a little bit, you know, the sort of social constructivist types that run around allowing everyone to make up their own gender. Neither of those are very useful. So maybe if we have like a very hard science way of actually determining this, then people who need help with it can get it as early as possible. And so I don't know how good the science is, but if the National Post is correct and this MRI brain scan can indeed inform people, I think this is really, really good. Anna Cherry says, props. Thanks, Brian. You're welcome, Anna. She says it's true. They found gay males had brain activity more like women and lesbians had brain patterns so more similar to men. But science is always sexist when it doesn't confirm your beliefs. Now, there's another thing, too. Because not everyone who is who's the MRI scans may show are as more female are necessarily suffering from gender dysphoria, because if they're just homosexual or lesbians, I guess homosexual covers lesbians, but if they're just homosexual, then the readings may still show that they have a more feminine, brain, or masculine brain, as the case may be. So if that's the case, then maybe there's still some work to be done. Just because someone is gay doesn't mean that they want to be a woman, right? So this is something that, should definitely still be handled with a good deal of care and, dare I say, ethics. But nonetheless, I think it's good news.
I did have one thing to add in here, because this reminded me of something else I heard. 2005, you had this neuroscientist named James Fallon, no relation to Jimmy, who took a look at the brains of serial killers and started noticing similar patterns, because they all had, low activity in certain areas of the frontal and temporal lobes. And I guess just for shits and giggles, he decided to do one to himself and found out he had the same sort of patterns as a serial killer, which, as far as we know, he wasn't. And he said something along the lines of, well, yeah, that the brain patterns aren't the end all be all. It's also up to how you were raised and the values you were instilled with, so forth and so on.
That is interesting. I actually, as an aside, I think the one field of science that I'm really fascinated by and I want to see more growth in is this sort of like neuroscience stuff. I know that I think we're just starting to get we haven't been doing this for very long at all when you look at the larger picture. So this sort of stuff is pretty interesting to me. All right, so
notes by the way, if you
notes.
appreciate if you appreciate what can be achieved and studied using magnetic resonance imaging scans, do be aware that they require helium in order to function. Small amounts, but the point is, when we run out of helium, we can't get it back. There's a certain amount in the ground, and when we run out, and we can't. There's no other way of synthesizing it.
Really?
So remember that whenever you're filling a balloon full of helium for the amusement of a child, because that balloon full of helium could run like an MRI scanner for God knows how long.
I had no idea that there's only a limited amount of helium in the world.
Yeah, well, it's the second most common element in the universe, but it generally sort of turns into other things because of weird chemical processes I don't understand. The only helium you can get is the stuff that's trapped in rocks on Earth. I mean, at some point, if we discover nuclear fusion, then we'll figure out how to turn hydrogen into helium. And we might be able to get some helium-3 from the moon or something. But yeah, apart from that, it's going to become a very precious resource in the next few decades. What I'm saying. So go easy on the fucking helium balloons at children's parties. Yeah,
yeah, really. Okay, so Hoki Bukisa gives us $4.99, and he says, at Mike, why you hate Menon? I don't know which Mike you're talking about, but I guess maybe both of you. Why do you hate Menon?
It's not Menon I hate, it's Menonism. It's just the isms I don't like.
It's the isms. I don't like any ideology of any kind. Freshinator 2 gives us $10 and says, another study showed that there was not a strong correlation among men or women. There was a wide variation amongst the people. How many people were in this study and what were the confounding factors? So this study that we're talking about, the trans one, 160 participants.
That was 160.
Yeah, so it's not the largest sample size. It definitely needs, they need to look and see if there are larger, trends going on. Although, wait, it was the 160. the 160 participants with gender dysphoria, of which there aren't many, you know, so you're not looking at a whole lot, I think. Maybe that's what... There must have been a control, though, right? So let me see if Anna Cherry has added anything. So no, she has not. Okay, so let's go ahead and... Somebody said switch to hydrogen. Yeah, isn't that flammable? I don't know if we should have hydrogen balloons for kids. Oh, the humanity.
Flammable and flammable. What's the difference?
Oh, yeah. I mean, whatever. Don't you want this to be fun or not? Okay, so then there was French Honey Badger says every resource is scarce. Learn some economics. Also, helium is produced by alpha radioactive decay for $5.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't know what that is. Sorry, I'm an idiot in many ways.
We all can't be smart like you. Sylvia Luca gives us $5 Canadian and says, I've been trying to get neuroscience to look at the... Shit, I'm not going to read that shit. Oh, the Therianthropes and other kin for like 9 years. Okay. That could be interesting. Keep trying. Keep plugging away at it. Meanwhile, I will check the Twitch one more time. Still quiet. So let us... I mean, okay, so we basically got through all the stories, but there was one additional one that came from Max while I was working on this particular show, working out the details. But I must say this first before I go into this one. This is all hearsay at this point. I don't see anything sort of... confirming this to be true, so please take this with a large grain of salt. But Hannah shared it, and although she can't make the show today because she's at her son's graduation, which is why this is actually on Thursday, she did put it through, and I think that she was pretty sure that this is likely the case. But I thought I would share the story anyway, but please take this with a grain of salt. We don't know if this is true. We'll have to follow back up on it. This is basically a rumor, not a fact, okay? There is some evidence, but it doesn't really say a whole lot. So a Twitter user named @RealBasedAmy was arrested on yesterday, for, according to police, a homophobic hate crime. Her crime? Supposedly she told someone in a car park to have a gay day. She wasn't using the word gay in the derogatory sense of the word, but rather she was wishing somebody to have a happy day. This was in the UK. The police stood outside of her door for 5 minutes asking her to open up. Amy said she wanted to know what she was being arrested for, but the policewoman speaking to her through the door would not answer the question. When Amy opened the door, the policeman stepped forward to arrest her. Amy, startled by him moving forward in an aggressive manner, pushed him slightly with both of her arms. Following that action, she was thrown on the ground and then hauled to the station. Amy is now out on bail. Now, there was an original tweet that Max had sent me that sort of talked about the person who knew Amy that supposedly experienced this, and the tweet is gone. So it's no longer on Twitter. I don't know if Twitter took it down. I don't know if the original poster took it down. It's just not there. But what I do have is this video, because when the police were at Amy's door, she went on Periscope and did a live stream, a short one for 5 minutes, where she pleaded with the police to figure out what she had done wrong. So I thought I would play 1 minute of this clip. I don't know if I need to banana this because this is a Periscope, but it's not even a minute long. It's very short, and you guys can see this for yourself. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and play this, and then I'll make sure to reaffirm what we know. Okay.
Open the door and let me speak to you.
Who's called you?
Please open the door.
This is just so weird. This is very surreal.
Okay. Well, open the door, please, Amy, so we can speak with you.
And you're not going to tell me what it's about? Alright, so, what time is it? It's 10 to 9 in the morning, on a Tuesday morning, and the police are at my door, filming. I can see your footage going, and I'm going to open my door, and I'm filming. What is going on? You're not
Okay,
coming
that's
in.
fine.
No,
No, I need
you're
to-
not coming.
You
no.
need to come out then.
You're not. Okay. What are you doing?
You need to come out.
What?
What are you
At
doing?
this time, you're under arrest, okay?
For what?
Preventing the course of justice.
What? Course of justice.
Do not resist us.
What are you
Do not
To lie
resist
down,
us.
rely on it in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence.
Hands behind your back. Leave your hands.
All right.
That is fucking terrifying. Okay, don't open your door to the police, folks. It's official. Do not. It's clear that they didn't have, you know, that they weren't allowed to break and enter. Apparently, that's against the rules. But they're like vampires. Once you open your door, they have full license to come in and arrest you for perverting the course of justice, i.e., not opening the door and letting them arrest you as soon as they got there. Fuck me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute state of Britain, man. The absolute state.
Not a serious country. Don't open your door to the police, folks. The concession they can give you is evidently they have to just stand outside the door politely, getting the female officer with the pleasant voice to keep politely saying, "Can you open the door, please? Can you open the door? We need to speak to you." And that's all she said. She kept repeating the fucking mantra. Wouldn't say why. Wouldn't give any reason why. Refused to talk through the glass pane of the door, which is perfectly possible. This is something we see like when people film themselves in cars when cops approach them. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can easily have a conversation through the window, but they demand that you open the window or the door so you can have a conversation, which is bullshit. You can tell straight away it's bullshit. You don't need that to have a conversation. If they want you to open the door or open the window, it's obvious that a conversation is not what they're looking for. They're trying to detain you. And I don't know if it works in Britain to say, "Am I being detained?" I don't know.
It doesn't work very well over here.
I don't know if you guys have sovereign citizenship over there.
Yeah, like you do over there.
Yeah, like we do over here. But so again, I guess I gotta reiterate this just to be clear here. The reason, according to what people are saying, is that she said to a person at a parking lot, I guess is what I mean. You guys don't call it a parking lot; you have a different name for it. But she said to a person, "Have a gay day," and she's an older woman. I'm showing a picture of her there. Obviously, she didn't say "have a gay day" in the sense that, you know, you're a gay. Even if she did, though, like, even if she did, what? If this is true, this is crazy. But we don't know. All we have is a woman named Bridget Fisher saying that Amy was arrested for saying this. And we have the short Periscope video that Amy put up where the police come to her home and they drag her out. And they arrested her. And she was in prison for... Or she was not in prison, but she was in custody for over 7 hours. And they released her on bail. So that's all we know. I want to make sure that, you know, this could be fake. I saw somebody saying, I hope this is fake. It's possible, but it looks to me like she was definitely arrested for something. I just don't know what.
If it's fake, then there's a couple of people getting arrested for impersonating a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
Surely.
Absolutely. So I got some super chats to go through. Yep, some people are saying it looks pretty legit. And Joey Jojo says, "Oi, bruv, that's not banter. You gotta go to jail, mate." My accent's terrible, but you know what I mean.
You have a license for that, door.
You got a license for saying gay.
All right. So, French Honey Badger. Oh no, I already read that one. I gotta go back a bit. Fretchinator 2 gives us $5 and says, "You are looking at the behaviors, different things, and can lead to the same behavior. No guarantee that you will find a strong correlation. Correlation is not causation." Yep. Hoki Bukisa gives us $4.99 and says, "R.I.P. Europe." French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, "You didn't open the door when I said you should. Therefore, you are interfering with the course of justice. That's how they can arrest you for anything." And Frank Tomeo gives us $2 Canadian and says they did worse to Goodfella. Yeah.
Kind of. Well, ironically, he did open the door the first time, which isn't usual for him. He's like me; he doesn't answer the door unless he's expecting someone. But on his occasion, the cops came to his door, and he did just open it the first time. And maybe that's what saved him from getting, pulled down to the floor and dragged away in handcuffs. Who knows? Maybe if he had just not opened the door and stayed there, they'd have kept hounding him until they intimidated into opening the door. And then, just like this woman, not only are they arresting him for a tweet, they're also arresting him for perverting the cause of justice by refusing to be arrested for a few hours. So, they didn't do worse to... Well, they did do worse to Goodfella because they hauled him in on a Friday and kept him there until Monday, which is one of those dirty tricks they do.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, Bridget was arrested yesterday, so I guess that would explain why she got to go home so soon. They should have probably waited till tomorrow. So, anyway, that is the story of Amy. So I again, we'll wait and see if there's more to it. We'll learn more and get back to you guys. Meanwhile, I think it's time for us to wrap up, and we're going to go into the after show, and we're going to look at this. How can literature resist Islamophobia? One writer answers, gay Muslim furry romance.
You heard it right.
That's right. Oh my God. So we're going to go ahead and look at this article at the after show. And if you guys want to join us on the after show, you should probably become a patron, because why wouldn't you want to hear more about gay Muslim furry romance and how you can use it to hashtag resist Islamophobia? Oh my God. Also, one more time, I just want to give my condolences to the family of John Peter Bain, Total Biscuit. It is really a shame that happened, and I hope that his passing was painless and graceful, and there wasn't too much suffering. So, with that said, I have been Brian Martinez, and I want to thank Mike and Mike for joining me on the show, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching. That's all for now.